How you guys doing? Welcome back to another video. I'm Presto's VR, and today we're going to be going over the topic of weapon understanding, if you can't tell from the title. Now, when it comes to weapon understanding, this is a very big concept. There's a lot of things you have to understand about your weapon. So we're pretty much going to go over the basics, and from what I know, to the best of my abilities, right? If there's something I might get wrong, or something that you would like to let me know, make sure to comment down below. Alright, let's get straight into understanding your weapon. Alright, so right here we have an HRT 11.5 in the game Tactical Assault VR. Now this is a great gun. I use it a bunch when it comes to close quarters, right? There's a lot of reasons why I use it for close quarters, and I will mention that. But let's first start with the front of the weapon, right? So, the front of the weapon, when it comes to understanding your weapon, you have to go and understand the barrel length, right? This is something very important, is barrel length, right? When you want to engage somebody either close up, far away, or just at a mid-range, you need to look at your barrel length, right? That is probably going to be your best friend, right? So the handguard can kind of symbolize where the barrel is, but also wherever the barrel's sticking out. But either way, the length of it, right? Usually 16 and above barrel length is for longer ranges, right? I would say below 16 is a little more like mid ranges, right? And then if it's just very short, then that's very close range, right? But the shorter the barrel, the better it is for close quarters. Now, we can think of it like this. When moving through a door, when you have less barrel length, you're having less problem of collision with the door, right? You're able to maneuver really quickly when it comes to this close quarter, environment, right? When you have a longer barrel, it's really good when it comes to velocity and range, right? So originally, if you want to play like a mission in Tactical Assault VR like Hidden Forest, you would want a M4A1 Ergi, right? It has a very good barrel length, right? But missions like Void, Apartments, even the new convention center, right? You would want to gun like the HRT 11.5, maybe the M4A1, MK18, right? But shorter barrel length guns, right? So that's very important, is the range and how your barrel correlates with the range. Now, let's hurry up and move closer to maybe at the front right here. So, right here you can see a suppressor. Now, some guns don't have a threaded barrel, it's called, where you can put a suppressor on there. So, if your gun is able to have attachments where you can add a suppressor, that's wonderful, right? You also have to consider if it's a built-in suppressor or not, right? So that's also very important, is where it comes when it comes to attachments, right? Now, once again, we're going to look at the barrel, but not the barrel itself that's inside, but the handguard around it. So this right here is the handguard, right? The barrel's inside of the handguard, but right out here is the handguard. This helps you when it comes to just gripping the gun, adding attachments, stuff like that. But there's different types of handguards. So there's some with less rails, and rails are the things up here where you can put stuff like sights, lasers, flashlights, right? But this handguard, you can put flashlights on there, you can put lasers, you can put grips on there, right? There's so much things you can do with this handguard, right? Customizable handguards is really useful, unless, depending on your purposes, you don't mind having a handguard with a bunch of rails on it, and you're more looking at the aspect of how you can actually grip the handguard without a bunch of heat emitting on your hands. Then you can also worry about that too. So the handguard's very important, right? And how it relates with the attachments. Now we can also look as to the center of the gun, right? So up here, all the way up here, is the upper receiver, right? Down here is the lower receiver, right? These are very important, and this is what makes up majority of the gun, right? Now, we can talk about gun mechanics very soonly, but what I want to focus on right now is the upper receiver and everything on there. So there's rails, right? There's no big obstacle or anything that's on top of the rails, kind of like the G3, 6C, and stuff like that. But instead, it's just a rail, right? It's not like any structure above the rails or something like that, right? We can also look at the charging handle, right? The charging handle is different than most of them. It has that a different charging handle that might help when it comes to gripping things. I think it's called the JHC. I can't really promise you guys that, but really it helps because you can actually put both fingers and pull it back. Not that the other normal one won't, but originally you can pull this charging handle back whether it be on the left or the right. Right, and it has more area where you can actually put your fingers on there, so it might make it easier to rack that back. Now, if we also look at the upper receiver a little more, we can also see like the dust cover, the chamber, the places where it is it comfortable to you? Would you understand them? Right, that's also very important. Now, let's go with the lower receiver, and that's also talking about the magazine and the ammo. So the lower receiver, does it have a safety where you can turn on full auto, semi, maybe even burst, whatever it might be, right? Does it have what you expect, right? You have to have certain fire modes that relate with the mission. So for example, if you're doing a bunch of covering fire and there's going to be a bunch of enemies, well, you would want full auto, right? But if you're trying to be precise and you might just need to take out a couple of enemies, not too much, you can do single fire or maybe even burst. Or what if this is like a carry gun? Like let's say if it was a pistol and not a rifle. What if it's a carry gun or something of the ordinary where you would want a safety on it to prevent any accidental shots, right? Maybe that's something you're looking for. Maybe what if it's you reloading really quickly? So right here, you can actually put a magazine in, and if that bolts all the way back, you can actually hit that, and what it'll do is it'll send that bolt forward. So is it very convenient to reload? Is it very quick? Is the way you reload not going to be a problem? Right? Now, the mechanism inside is also a thing. So such things like AKs and certain guns are more reliable than other guns. That is genuinely something you would have to look into yourself, because unfortunately we cannot look inside of the gun, and it is a very bunch of tests that you have to look into to consider whether a gun's really good reliably, right? Now, also something that you would have to know when having a gun and understanding your gun is, like, for example, if you had a rifle, right, and you shoot it on the daily, but it jams a lot, then you know, okay, well, this gun jams a lot. Maybe you should try a different one. So you have to understand which one also jams, right? Now, I did mention a bunch about the magazine, right? The magazine size. Now, unfortunately, in Tactical Assault VR, you're not able to change out your magazine size, right? So there's some things that is outside of Tactical Assault's range, right, of customization, because I'm also talking about even outside of the game, things that might matter when understanding your gun. But let's just say, relating with Tactical Assault VR and not relating with Tactical Assault VR, the max amount of magazine size you can have, which is the only size you can really have, is 30 rounds, and it's chambered in 5.56. So here's the thing, what if you need a bunch of rounds, and maybe you should go with an LMG, right? What if you hardly need any rounds and you're worrying about more precision and not weight and stuff? Maybe you can go with a sniper, right? Stuff like that. Also, it's chambered in 5.56, well, 5.56 rounds. Is it good for far range? Is it good for close range? This is something you also would have to know when understanding your gun is your ammunition. So for example, like sniper rounds, they might be bigger to take down bigger targets or different levels of armor. There might be some rounds that's more better when it comes to penetration. There's other rounds that's better for longer ranges and some better for closer ranges. Some better for, like I said, penetration, and some for just a blunt, right? There is so much things that even the round can matter about, right? And the prize, which really don't have to worry about in the game, but in real life, it can also be the price. Now, let's hurry up and look down here. Is the stock, right? Is the stock adjustable? Can you take the stock off? Can you customize? Can you do whatever, right? The stock is also very important because depending on your stock also depends on your recoil, right? If you have a bigger stock, well, you might be absorbing more of that recoil. That's why snipers you might see have bigger stocks, or usually more longer range weapons have bigger stocks, right? But if you want close range, more customization, well, then you can have a stock like this, right? Where it's easy to maneuver with and it's easy to change on the go, right? Stuff like that. And like for AKs, they have the built-in wooden stock. Well, would you not want that? Do you think that'd be very uncomfortable? So you also have to find a stock that's comfortable, right? Same for a grip. You also want to find a grip that's comfortable. So let's even talk about grips, since we already are now talking about it. More vertical grips are better for longer ranges. More horizontal grips are better for closer ranges, right? But also at the same time, you have to think as to what you enjoy when it comes to your grip and how comfortable you are with your hands being in that grip position, right? That is also very important. Now, I guess the last thing we can mention about, at least on the rifles, is also sights, right? Or no, not just sights, but sights and grips, maybe be lasers. But let's talk all about it real quick. But first, let's talk about grips, right? Before we get into a bunch of attachments. But grip, right? Is it comfortable to you, right? What is the reason you're using that grip? Is it to easily grab out the weapon? Is it to get a good grip on the weapon? What might it be, right? Now, you also have to understand the environment for your weapon. That also does come with understanding malfunctions and the mechanics, right? Now, let's hurry up and focus on more of the top rails and what I have. So the attachment I have is for closer ranges, right? You wouldn't want to scope for a very short barrel gun, right? It's going to be not really that good. You wouldn't want to scope, right, for close ranges. You just need a sight that's really good when it comes to CQB and stuff like that, right? More magnified sights would be for farther ranges. More just, one-time sights would be for closer ranges, right? So the zoom and also understanding the durability of your sight, how to set it up, the capabilities, like for example, this one has night vision capabilities. That also very much matters, right? What you like, the price that's affordable to you, everything. The weight, that's all very important. The laser, are you going to need a laser for your weapon? Well, depending on the mission, lasers can reveal your position, right? Some people use them close quarters. I personally don't, because I feel like they reveal your position. But will you need a laser? Do you need a laser on a sniper? Do you need a laser on an LMG? What is the purpose you're using a laser for, right? So lasers, they can reveal your position, but also if you're worrying about shooting by the hip or shooting a bunch of rounds, you're not worrying about your position, then maybe you should add a laser if you want. Right, flashlight. What environments are you going to that you need a flashlight? It might reveal your position, right? So flashlights are also very important. Understand the flashlights, right? All of these are very important, and it's what makes up a gun, and understanding what to go into a mission with and what gun is the best for that mission, right? So when you have attachments and parts of a gun that matches the mission, well, you're going to have the best gun for your mission, right? You're going to have probably one of the best performances in your mission, right? Now, we can quickly switch to a different weapon. So this is the new weapon they added, and I will make a video showing the two new weapons they added. But right here, I believe is the USP 40, maybe. You can correct me in the comments if I am incorrect. But either way, the USP 40, as I say, is it a reliable gun, right? Is it good to be in your holster, right? Is the grip good for you, right? Is the way you rack it fine with you? Same for the rifle. Is the way you rack it, is it fine with you? The mag placement, is it fine with you? Is there a flared mag well, right? And some of the stuff is even relating and going back to the rifle, right? Does it have rails where you can put attachments on? maybe on the top, maybe on the bottom, right? Is the magazine size good for you? All these things is the way the weapon performs, and what you have to do is good for you. Is the sights good for you? The built-in sights, the iron sights, right? All very big things, right? Maybe even how difficult is it to rack the gun? So these are all very important things, not just in tactical assault VR, but also in real life situations, right? When it comes to understanding your weapon, your firearm, whatever, right? But keep this in mind. Hopefully this gave you an idea as to how to understand your weapon and the things that really matter most when it comes to what you should understand about your weapon. Alright, now let's get straight into the rest of the video.